You are listening to the Pursuit of Manliness podcast, where we are vigorously equipping men to pursue biblical manliness. This is our midweek A Quiet Life podcast that focuses on living a quiet life, mind your own affairs, work with your hands, and be dependent upon nobody. For more information, visit us at thepursuitofmanliness.com. Well, men, we are just a couple days past our most recent men's retreat, and this one was incredible. It was incredible. The first year we did it, which was last year, there was that anticipation of, can we pull this off? Will guys show up? If they get here, will it be awkward, weird? Can we feed that many guys? What happens when guys camp out? Hotels. I mean, there's so many questions that you just don't know until guys actually get here. So when it was over, you kind of had a gauge of what happened, and kind of evaluating things that went well, things that didn't go well, and we're always, I think, doing that. And I remember saying last year, I don't know if there will be another one, but there was one. And so throughout the course of the year, my wife and my kids, who are fully invested in the men's retreat, especially, they're fully invested in Pursuit of Manliness, but really, they're hands-on and doing a lot of things. They wanted to do it, and I said, all right, let's do it. So we did it again. This past weekend, we had just shy of 200 men register. We had a number of guys do the online option. We probably had 180 men on campus, a large number of them camping out, RVs, sleeping in their vehicles. We had hotels, Airbnbs, all that stuff. Can we fit them in there? Just barely. We were able to barely fit them in there. You're looking at next year. Do you move to a different location? What do you do? Because we have clearly outgrown the place where I serve right now. So looking at that, what might be some options? Then there's a lot of logistics to work through there. It was really good, and I would say this was remarkable. And obviously, my wife and I and my kids are fully invested in this. So we would think that as we kind of look back and you play that replay of the past week and all the things that went into it. But not only that, hearing from men who were at the retreat. Some guys have been to both of them now, and some guys that was their first one. But hearing your feedback has been incredibly encouraging. Really has been very encouraging to hear your perspective, your takeaway. I try to communicate some things that are going to happen or what we're going to do, but to see or to hear from you is really good, and I really appreciate that. We did some things a little different this year at the retreat. We got the prayer cards. You've probably seen those on social media. Guys holding up their little white card. We did that at registration, and we didn't hand them out. We had them in bowls. It was that Saturday. We invited guys to come up, pray for that individual for one year, and so I'm praying for my guy every day, and you're seeing other guys do the same. I am looking forward to, before I get into this message, today's podcast is my Friday night message from the men's retreat, and then next week's podcast on Wednesday will be my Saturday message from the men's retreat. I'm not trying to toot my own horn. I just believe in the charge that I gave that night, and we didn't get really good audio or video of it, so I thought, let's just make this a podcast format. But even beyond that, I'm excited to announce we have our second sponsor to the Pursuit of Manliness podcast. Right now, we have Armor Nation Coffee. And this one, for me, for someone to be a sponsor of the podcast, there's a few variables here. Beyond, I need to get to know you. I need to know you are who you say you are. Well, I don't need to be your best friend, but I do need to get to know you. I need to believe in what you're doing. That's not to say I don't believe in what other guys are doing, but it has to fit what we're doing here. It has to fit the brand, if you will. And because I think about the guys that listen to this, and I'm careful about what I charge, like, you need to do this or you need to buy this. I don't want to just do that flippantly. I really don't. If you're like me, I don't have a lot of money just to be tossing around buying whatever, thing blows by my eyeballs. So I want to be careful with that. So for someone to be a sponsor, I was talking to this individual a couple months ago. I said, number one, I need to believe in what you're doing. This particular person, this brand, I was already in on it anyways, but I said, I need to know what you're doing. You need to send me some stuff. If I'm going to be sending guys your way and saying, you need to purchase this particular product for this reason and this whatever, something needs to at least blow back this way, right? Because I don't charge any money. To be a sponsor, I don't charge any money. So I'm going to put a link, and I'm going to, all that stuff. So number one, you need to send me some gear. Number two, there needs to be a discount code. Everybody needs to benefit from this. You need to have some kind of discount code that can say you use this and this will happen. And then number three, there needs to be a sample of some kind, something that I can give away, or I can put in shipping, as I'm sending out gear, whatever, that guys can go, oh, I didn't know about this, or I bought this so I could get this sample. We send out a ton of samples with a lot of different products and stuff. So I'm excited to announce Dark Water Wood. Some of you guys know Doug Cole. Doug Cole of Dark Water Wood is our newest sponsor of the podcast. Dark Water Wood says they are for the glory of God and the good of others. I will say, I know Doug personally. He's been a good friend for probably 3-4 years now. I don't know how long it's been. He's been to my home. We've had a lot of conversations. We've walked through a lot of things. He's a solid brother in Christ. You guys that know him go, yeah, even that doesn't do him justice. He plays on the worship team for our men's retreat. He's just a good dude, and he makes really good beard products. I'm not a fancy beard guy, so I do a shampoo, a wood comb, and beard oil. That's it. And I will say, not all beard oils are created equally. So I don't want to smell like I'm carrying an essential oil on my face. I just don't. So I want, if I'm going to have a good smell, I want a good smell. And so that's what Dark Water does. They have a lot of stuff. You go to darkwaterkc.com. Obviously, the link will be in the show notes. You can check that out. All kinds of options here, but the discount code is PURSUE, PURSUE. You get 20% off beard oil. He makes a lot of things. You're like, can I get 20% off of your woodwork? No, you get 20% off the beard oil. And so to say thank you and to help get this out, everyone who buys something from the Pursuit of Manliness gear store during the month of October will get one of these. I'm holding it up if you're watching the video. It is a beard sample. He says this is good for a week. So depending on your beard size, facial hair, follicle count, whatever. And then I still got him in the bag. I probably should have got him out. You got this guy, I think you can see it on the video a little bit. His name is, I think, Doc Nail. Forgive me, Doug, if I mess that up. It is a guy putting his dukes up with the Dark Water tattoo on his right arm. And Doug designs all this stuff. So when you buy Dark Water gear, products, whatever, you're going to see that guy. You're going to see him on the website, darkwaterkc.com. Again, those will be, all those links and stuff will be in the show notes along with the discount code. I know personally a number of men, especially guys that are in tribe, who this is what they use. And so as Doug and I were talking, we're saying, man, let's not limit this to the guys in tribe. Not that that's a bad thing. But we have a large audience. We have a large bearded audience, for that matter, who listen to this show, and so I think this is a perfect fit. And the cool thing was, Doug of Dark Water, myself, and Randy Levere of Armor Nation were able to hang out a couple days at this retreat the past weekend. Well, let's move on. We're going to get into this. One of the things that I kept thinking about as I got close to the retreat, this phrase, 4 words: someone must go first. Someone must go first. And I thought about this. For some guys, you are the first guy to get and stay married in your family lineage. You look at your family lineage or your family tree and you'll say, it's more like a family brush pile. I want to do this different. For some of you, you might be the first guy to have a steady job. You might be the first man to not give into addiction, or to go to and or graduate college or serve in the military. For some of you guys, I know you're the first one to follow Jesus. And so you're trying to cut your teeth on this and say, okay, I want to figure out what this means to follow Jesus. So not only that, you're serving in your church. Not only that, you're tithing to your church. Listen, someone has to go first. For a number of guys, you looked around and you took an observation of those who came before you, and you recognized something needs to change. Now, there's others who had a solid foundation, a solid example to follow, and you're following in their footsteps. And it saved you a lot of heartache and confusion. You have a lineage that's gone before you that you're kind of tethered to, and you're able to walk in that. And I think that's a great thing. Never want to minimize that, but I'm telling you what, it doesn't take much for that chain, that link, that lineage to start to disintegrate. And so when we consider situations and circumstances in our life, just remember, someone needs to go first. I want you to consider the landscape of your legacy right now. What did you inherit that you say, I don't want to pass that on? Or maybe what are you trying to develop that you say, I urgently want to pass that on? Is there anything in your life that you say, when I look at that, someone has to break this pattern? Or is there anything that you believe, listen, man, if I don't go first, I will leave behind a wake of chaos and destruction for those who come after me to wade through. If I don't do it, no one else is going to do it. I just got to believe there's guys who are saying, yep, that's me. In 1 Samuel 13, we see the first king of Israel. His name is Saul, and he begins to take reign. His army's around 4,000 men. He's got about 3,000 with him and about 1,000 with Jonathan. To me, Jonathan has to be, listen, one of the greatest unsung heroes of the Bible. Jonathan was a remarkable military leader. He just demonstrates the ability to lead successful attacks. And yet in 1 Samuel 13, this attack that he's a part of here just merely awakens the Philistines. Just kind of stirs them a little bit. And the Philistines were kind of, a situation where Israel could enjoy kind of quote unquote peace as long as they stayed in their place. Maybe that was your upbringing. Maybe your house, whatever, had a peaceful enough feel about it, but that was really just inundated with fear. It was like, I'm just trying to stay out of the way. I'm trying to keep my mouth shut. I'm just trying to get through the day. I'm just trying not to upset people. I'm just trying to, just get out of the way. And then we would have quote unquote peace. But let's be honest, it really wasn't that peaceful. 1 Samuel 13, Jonathan says, you know what? I'm not going to live like this no more. Let's look at this. 1 Samuel 13, verse 3, Jonathan defeated the garrison of the Philistines that was at Geba, and the Philistines heard of it. And Saul blew the trumpet throughout all the land, saying, let the Hebrews hear. And all Israel heard it, that Saul had defeated the garrison of the Philistines. Say what? Who got credit for this? Saul. You probably work at that place, right? You worked your face off. You worked real hard. The boss got credit. You're like, what in the world? Well, let's go to 1 Samuel 14. 1 Samuel chapter 14, we see a situation where Jonathan and his bodyguard are surveying their current landscape, and they say, someone must go first. Just for a second, just consider your life. Is there anything in your life that you say, someone's got to go first? I can't wait any longer. Someone has to do something about this. 1 Samuel chapter 14, verse 1. One day, Jonathan, the son of Saul, said to the young man who carried his armor, come, let us go over to the Philistine garrison on the other side. But he did not tell his father. Yeah, he learned his lesson. Number 2, verse 2. Saul was staying in the outskirts of Gibeah in the pomegranate at the Migron. The people who were with him were about 600 men. Look at those first 2 words. Everything starts with those 2 words. One day. One day. Listen, man, there was nothing about this one day that was out of the ordinary except for the fact that our all-powerful God woke up a man that he was going to use in a mighty and courageous way. Jonathan looks to the guy closest to him, who is also his armor bearer, and gives him the day's itinerary and says, here's what we're fixing on doing. This man was more than a hauler of military equipment. He wasn't pulling the red wagon behind with all of Jonathan's belongings. He wasn't the caddy. He was a guy that would have fought right alongside Jonathan and would have served as an apprentice to him. One commentator said it this way. The armor bearer was so close to him that he would literally be responsible to hold his shield. Imagine an individual who is so close to you in the battles you're fighting that they're willing to take some hits themselves because they're holding your shield. You're fighting and you're giving it all you got. And this guy, this man, this brother is holding a shield to protect you. He's going to take some hits himself because the shield is out there to protect you, but he's willing to do it because it matters. Imagine a brotherhood that is so close to you. They are essentially your protector. Do you got that? 1 Samuel chapter 14, verse 6. Forgive me, I'm about to lose my voice, man. A lot of messages. Jonathan said to the young man who carried his armor, come, let us go over to the garrison of these uncircumcised. It may be that the Lord will work for us, for nothing can hinder the Lord from saving by many or by a few. The armor bearer said to him, do all that is in your heart. Do as you wish. Behold, I am with you, heart and soul. The Israelites found themselves in a military conflict that seems virtually impossible. Their physical position was terrible. They were at a severe disadvantage. Yet Jonathan says, let's go check this out. Maybe Jonathan remembered Shamgar. Took that little stick. He defeats all those guys. Leviticus chapter 26 is that promise, essentially telling you a few will defeat a bunch. Says, you know what? God made a lot of promises. He's done a lot of things. Perhaps he'll do it for us. Now we need to understand this divine warrior ideology that's at place here. He says it may be that the Lord will work for us. He's not questioning God. The mindset of the people that day were battles were really between the deities. What happened on the battlefield is evidence of what deity was actually winning. What warfare played out was merely a representation of what was transpiring amongst the gods beyond what we could see. Canaanites had their gods, the Babylonians had their gods. The stronger god they believed would be victorious regardless of the strengths or weaknesses of the combatants. So if your army was losing, it looked like your God either didn't care or couldn't fight. Therefore, as Jonathan says, if God fights on their behalf, Jonathan and his armor bearer are going to be victorious. He says, we're not outnumbered. We actually have a severe advantage over them. Now, you believe that, don't you? I don't know if we do, though. It sounds good, and it looks great on a t-shirt and on a Facebook post and in a bookmark. But if the Lord fights for us and sends us into any circumstance, will he be victorious? Or are we in danger of professing it with our lips, but our hearts are far from it? Do we really believe that if God fights on our behalf, we'll be victorious? If we believe that, then we know someone must go first. You see in the text, neither one of these men get to be passive participants. Jonathan and his armor bearer are going to become fully invested in the battle. They're not standing on the shore. They're not watching from the bleachers. They're going to reveal their position, and they're willing to fully engage with the enemy, but only if God goes before them. We're looking for a sign here. God, give us something that's obvious. Verse 8. And Jonathan said, behold, we will cross over to the men, and we will show ourselves to them. And if they say to us, wait until we come up to you, then we will stand in our place, and we will not go up to them. But if they say, come up to us, then we'll go up, for the Lord has given them into our hand, and this shall be a sign to us. Jonathan showed wisdom and a strong faith in God to this point. Listen, we don't have any commandment from God. God didn't say, I want you to go, your command. No. Jonathan is following the bold hope and the impression of his heart. But he's humble enough to know, listen, my heart might be wrong. So I need God to confirm this in me. This ain't the same as Gideon throwing out the fleece one day and 24 hours doing it again. And no. Gideon was questioning God's word. Jonathan doesn't have this. Jonathan didn't doubt a word from God. He doubted his own heart and mind. Listen, am I being overzealous? Am I being irrational? Am I trying to do this for the wrong reasons? He says, but if it's the right reason, I'm willing to go first. Verse 11. So both of them showed themselves to the garrison of the Philistines. The Philistines said, look, the Hebrews are coming out of the holes where they have hidden themselves. And the men of the garrison hailed Jonathan, his armor bearer, said, come up to us, and we will show you a thing. If that's not one of the worst knee-jerk reactions. You ever been caught off guard and you stammer and can't figure out what to say? We'll show you a thing. I got a thing. I went to the store and picked up a gadget. What's it? It's just, I don't know. If you know Hebrew, tell me what that word is. And Jonathan said to his armor bearer, come up after me. The Lord has given them into the hand of Israel. Then Jonathan climbed up from his hands and his feet, and his armor bearer after him, and they fell before Jonathan. His armor bearer killed them after him. And after that first strike, which Jonathan, his armor bearer, made, he killed about 20 men with him, as if for about half a furrow's length, an acre of land. There was panic in the camp and the field among all the people of the garrison, and even the raiders trembled. The earth quaked, and it became a very great panic. They get their confirmation. They said, come on, we'll show you a thing. He said, you know what? Someone's got to go first. When courageous men of God arrived in the camp, arrogance turned to panic, and evil began to turn on itself. Jonathan used his heart and sword, but God did what Jonathan could not do. He sent an earthquake to terrify the Philistines. Remember, if your worldview is the real battle is between these deities and humanity is merely the representation of that battle that's going beyond the heavens, then when the earth begins to quake, panic is your only response. Often we wait around for God to do what he's already called us to do. We know what God says. We know what he asks of us. It's in print if we're willing to open it and read it. But like a 10-year-old waiting for his mom to pick up his room or put his dishes away or remind him of homework, we wait for God to give us countless reminders, and then we wonder why God's not just pouring out his blessings on us. We wonder why we're not growing. We wonder why we're living in sin. We wonder why we have no influence. And people don't want to follow or listen, or our marriages are disintegrating, or our kids want nothing to do with us because we're not willing to go first. God will often work in miraculous ways in our life, ways that only he can do if we were only willing to do our part. How many marriages, households, churches, communities are just waiting for a man of God to do something, to step up and do something? I want you to consider once again the landscape of your life. Consider the areas that you're struggling in. Are there areas that you're waiting for God to intervene? Come on, God, I know you could do it. Come on, come on, come on, come on. God's like, what are you doing? What would happen if you began to be the one that went first? He said, God hasn't reconciled this. He hasn't fixed all this yet, but I know more than enough to get busy. God hasn't made all this better, but I know more than enough to do the things that I know I should do. I will busy myself with good and godly things. Meanwhile, I know along the way, somewhere, God will change my perspective or he'll change the situation. How many children have never heard the words that they desperately want to hear because a man of whose presence was supposed to be comforting and affirming, man, he just wouldn't go first? How many marriages fall apart because a man would not show humility and swallow his pride or walk away from sin or stop flirting or stop jacking around or stop wasting money or stop being lazy or stop just being a loser? How many of those things happen? All the time. How many churches fall apart? Because you can't count on the guys. They're afraid that they're going to be found out, that they're frauds or phonies or spiritually immature, or they're not doing anything, or they're caught up in pornography, or that they're, messing around on it, whatever. How many neighborhoods just unravel into chaos because nobody goes first? No man is willing to go first. What are you waiting on? What is delaying your obedience to God to live out the courageous call that he's placed on your life? I want you to know we are meant for so much more in this life than to attempt to consume all we can and die the safest. There are too many guys living for the weekend, just trying to get all their hobbies in, all their fun in, whatever, and just trying not to die too young, but take in all they can. Sometimes what's required is an armor bearer to look at a Jonathan and say, you know what, I'll go with you. I'll be your guy. What if the armor bearer actually had more faith and courage than Jonathan did on that day? Now, we don't have a grading scale. God doesn't reveal that. But what if he did? What if the fact that the armor bearer kept walking with Jonathan was the push that Jonathan needed to keep going? If the armor bearer said, you know what, today's really not a good day. I was supposed to mow the grass, and man, the kids have been just crazy, so I'm going to give my wife a break so she can take a nap and get a coffee and just read her book with a blanket and just, what if the armor bearer said, nope, we're not canceling anything. I cleared my schedule. We're doing this. I think that changes things. You need someone that says, I'm for you. I'm with you. Do you have an armor bearer? No. Well, maybe you need to be an armor bearer for somebody else. We need people who are for us and with us, but we need people who tell us the truth. And when they give us that charge, when they tell us the truth, they come alongside of us and they say something that's a little hard, they give us a little bit of heat, don't step away from it. I'll have guys that will reach out and they'll give me their story, or they'll give me their excuses, or they'll give me their what fors and whys and whatevers. And if I give them any heat at all, you know what they do? They disappear. Because that's not what you want. Because nobody in your life is willing to tell you that. Nobody in your life is willing to tell you, listen, man, this is below average. Listen, this can't be acceptable. Listen, you're better than this. Or maybe you're not. You should be better than this. I want you to know Jonathan's courage was proven. His ability to fight was never in question. He needed confirmation that he was not going to walk into this battle alone. Perhaps that's what you need to do. You need to find someone that says, hey, I'm going to go into this battle for you. I'll go in it with you. Heart and soul. You fight, I'm going to hold your shield. Just last night, at about 11 o'clock at night, I got a text from a really good guy who never sends me a text about this. And I'm going to sum it up with this. I need your prayers. And I thought, hold up. This guy, he never asked for nothing. This guy is a close friend, a close brother. I mean, I would do anything for him, but I don't think I've ever had a message from him like that. He just gave me a synopsis. I said, I'll pray for you. And I thought, no, get out of bed, hit your knees and pray for this guy. Today, I checked in. I said, just checking in. Gives me the update. Maybe you don't have anyone like that. Can I challenge you that you need to be that person for someone first, probably then? You probably need to do that first. Like, I don't got nobody. Then be that person first. I'll tell you until I'm blue in the face, you need to get in tribe. I don't know if I got the money. I don't know. Okay, well, go buy video games, go to your concerts, go out to eat all the time, go do all that other stuff, and then guilt me that you don't have money to do something that will change you if you engage in it. Had almost 200 guys show up. The strongest bonds for sure are the 60 plus men who are in tribe. There's no introductions. We already know. We already know each other. We're already working through stuff. Problem is, you probably don't have people that you're working through stuff with. They give and they take. It's amazing how that works. That guy last night, absolutely. Absolutely. You know what I'm saying? Because you just know. You need guys that say, I'll go with you. I'll go with you. I'll go into prayer. I didn't have to get into details how I was praying for the guy. You message me, I'm on it. I'm on it. And I'll stay on it. We got too many friends that are surface level. Too many men in churches that don't engage or show up for that matter. But too many fathers who want affirmation from their kids, which to me is just asinine. But that's what we got. Guys, well, my kids don't know. Why don't you be a victim a little bit longer? Why don't you be the martyr a little bit longer? No wonder why we don't want to talk about patriarchs and stuff. We don't have people worthy to be a patriarch. Too busy walking around like Eeyore. Too many wives want a guy that provides spiritually and financially. Well, I put a roof over her head, I pay for vacation, she drives a nice car. You ain't prayed with her in 12 years. You don't ask her how she's doing. You don't know anything about her. Too many guys with scars in their past, keeping them in this invisible prison that they refuse to step out of because they're afraid to develop some grit and make a real difference in the lives of the people around them. Me and my teenage daughter last night were talking about grit. There was someone on the radio about adversity. She said, what's adversity? So we're talking about it. She's like, oh yeah. So she starts talking. I'm thinking, you have more grit than a lot of guys out there. Joshua had Caleb. Elijah had Elisha. Daniel had Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Peter had John. Paul had Silas and Timothy. Man, do you not see the battle that sits right in front of your eyeballs? And if you say, well, I really don't, I think things are pretty good, then you need to ask the Lord to change your viewpoint. Things will become more clear and obvious. As long as Jonathan, the armor bearer, and Saul and everyone were hiding, things weren't too bad. They were kind of on a camping trip. Once they stood up and revealed themselves, it's go time. I think there's some guys afraid to stand up and reveal themselves because they know it will be go time. Listen, get an armor bearer. Get an armor bearer. Tribe's filled with them. You need to get in tribe. You can be incredibly lonely and not have a real friend. You can be surrounded by people in your church, your men's group, whatever. But I know we all got some stuff. And we need someone that's willing to step in this battle with you. But man, he can't always carry your shield. You have to be ready to carry other people's shields in return. There's too many guys who are relationally dependent upon other guys to always be there. At some point, you have to get up out of the mud puddle. Stop sticking your hand up saying, help me, help me, help me, help me. Stop calling the emotional ambulance around you and say, okay, appreciate that. Now that I'm up under my feet, now I'm ready to do that for somebody else. You have to be willing to go into spiritual battles with others. Too many guys like to stay on the sideline talking about battles. Too many guys like to talk about wearing the armor, but they never actually engage in anything. It's like putting your football gear on, watching your team play and saying, we lost. You didn't lose. They lost. You watched. You ate popcorn. That's what they're doing. They're eating popcorn, watching the battle, going, well, I don't know what we're going to do. You aren't doing anything. Do you have the courage to act, or are you secretly hoping someone else will go first? Listen, what if nobody ever goes first? What if whatever ails you or your home or whatever's just jacked up in your life, what if you never do anything about it? You stay exactly the way that you are. I'm 47. I don't know if I'll get another 47 on this planet. Let's say I get 20. In 20 more years, what if I never do anything different? What happens? I don't even want to think about it. I don't even want to think about it. And whatever time I do have left, I'm going to try to get it right. But beyond that, I want to help other people get it right. Those younger people behind me, man, please. You can save yourself a lot of heartache, a lot of disappointment if you ask the Lord to direct your path straight, right? Listen, Jonathan didn't use reckless courage. He used the courage that was driven by his faith in God. First and foremost, you got to surrender to Jesus, okay? You want to be a mighty warrior, a mighty man of God. That sounds great. You want to iron sharpens iron. That's great. You got to know Jesus. Otherwise, you're just doing religious things. You're just talking religious. You're just being religious. You're trying to be Christian. You become a Christian poser. Don't be a carbon copy of the real thing. Be the real thing. Surrender to Jesus. Be a conduit of the gospel. Gospel came to me. Needs to go to other people. And then find someone that you can affirm, heart and soul. I'm with you, man. Hey, listen, don't let this day go by without you at least considering that. I'd say don't let this day go by without you securing a spot in Tribe. You will find a band of brothers that's unlike anything you have. I promise. Now, if you're a guy that's listening to this, you're saying, I'm going to join Tribe because I want to see what it is. I want to do it at my church. I'll save you the money. Just make a phone call. You're going to waste your time. You're going to waste your time. You're going to get in something for 6 months. You're going to do absolutely nothing. Then you're going to try to do it in your church. You're going to tell guys to do things even though you didn't do anything with it at all. Don't do that. That's a waste of time. But I'm telling you what, you want a band of brothers? You want to go into battle with some guys spiritually and relationally? You want to laugh at things? We take the right things serious. We laugh about everything else. Okay? Perhaps today is the day that you embrace the reality that you're the someone that must go first. There's no more delaying. There's no more waiting. Will you be that person? Will you be that person that actually is willing to go first? And if you go first, I promise you, eventually, others will fall in your tracks. I promise. Thank you for listening to the Pursuit of Manliness podcast. If you would, make sure to visit iTunes and leave a 5-star review to let others know what you think of this show. When you get a chance, make sure to visit thepursuitofmanliness.com to see what is available in the gear store, find more information out about Tribe, and much more. Thanks for listening, and let's keep pursuing biblical manliness.